Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this guy right here, Far East War 1592. It is a game that simulates the Korean-Japanese War back in 1592 to 1598, and the Ming Dynasty from China also helped out the Joseon Dynasty in Korea to fend off the Japanese because the Japanese wanted to take over both Korea and China. So they worked together to try to make sure that did not happen. So it is a 2 or 4 player game. I do want to make sure that's mentioned. It's not a 3-player game, and there are basically rules that govern each of those. So let's get down to the table, and I'll show you. So in Far East War, it is a 2 or 4 player game. Now, the reason it's 2 or 4 players is because there is essentially 2 sides to the war. You have the Japanese forces that are invading the peninsula of Korea, and then you have the Joseon Dynasty and the Ming Dynasty who allied together to keep the Japanese from trying to take over Korea and China. So in a 2-player game, 1 player takes the Japanese forces, the other player takes the alliance forces, and then in a 4-player game you have 2 factions of Japanese forces that of course work together, and then 1 person controls each the Ming Dynasty alliance forces, and then the Joseon Dynasty forces. In order to win the game, basically there are an event deck, and in the event deck there is a reset card, and when that reset card has been flipped over for its 3rd time, the person who is actively going right now, that will be the last turn, and then whoever has the most forces, whoever holds the most land provinces on the peninsula of Korea will be the winner. If there's a tie for that, then it's whoever has the most defeated general tokens, and then if it's still tied after that, whoever is producing the most production points at that particular moment in time is the winner. Now, there are special immediate win conditions. First of all, if one person at any time during the game controls 12 out of the 16 land provinces, the game is automatically over and that person wins. Or when the alliance forces control both of these red shaded areas, that would be an immediate win. Or when the Japanese forces control any 2 of these red highlighted areas, so 1, 2, or 3, any 2 of those provinces, if they're held by Japanese forces, that's an automatic win as well. Now, the crux of the game focuses upon this action rondel here, and each player has a token that starts on the move battle area up here in the top, I guess you could call that right-hand corner. On your turn, you're basically going to be able to move your token 1 or 2 spaces for free. You don't have to spend any supply points to do that, or you can pay 8 supply points and move it 3, and that's the furthest that you'd be able to move your action token here. Now, when you land on a space, the Japanese player always goes first. That means that you get to carry out those 2 actions. And then once you're done carrying out those 2 actions, then it would be the other player's turn, and he can move and carry out those 2 actions, or he can go to the same place you did and carry out the same 2 actions. This is where the basic gist of the entire game lies. Whenever a person's token passes an event, the event line here, then an event card is drawn, and that is carried out before the person can do the actions that they have landed on and chosen to do. Now, if the Japanese player takes the production general's actions, then first thing will be the production phase, where the general will look to see how many production points they are currently producing, and then move their supply tracker that many, so from 30 to 50 since we're producing 20. And then the Japanese player will then have the opportunity to take from their hand of generals here. Each side starts with 8 cards in their general deck. They start with 2 on the board, and then they have 6 as a starting hand as well. And they can do any number of things with these different generals. Now, during the generals phase, you can pay, first of all, 5 supply points to take a general from your hand and deploy them onto the board. Any legion that's on the board can be deployed to. The second thing you can do is replace a general. So if your general is heavily wounded, or maybe he's just not having the same effectiveness that you wanted him to, you can take a general off the board and place a new one onto the board. That costs 3 SP. And then finally, you can just simply remove a general from battle. And that also costs 3 SP. But those are the 3 options that you have during the generals phase of the production generals action. And then during the recruit and regroup phase, you can pay 1 SP for each new recruit that you want to add to the board. So up to 8. So I'm going to go ahead, the Korean player is going to pay 8 SP to take 8 new troops into their hand. Now the Korean Ming player can take those troops and put them into the different provinces that they want to put them in, as long as they follow a few rules. First of all, there can never be more than 2 legions in a province, and those legions can never have more than 4 troops on them. There are some generals like Mori here on the Japanese side that allow a legion to have up to 5 troops in it, but generally speaking, it's only 4 troops per legion and only 2 legions per province. Then finally, there is a recruit limit for each province, and you have to adhere to that. So, for example, left Hwanghae-do here can only have 2 new troops put into it. Those 2 troops can go into 1 legion as long as it doesn't take the legion over 4 troops, or you can put 1 in 1 legion and 1 in the other. Either way is fine. And then in the regroup phase, in provinces where you have added at least 1 troop, you can regroup within that province. And regrouping simply means you can take troops from 1 legion and put them into another. You can split 1 legion up as long as you're not taking it over 2 legions for the province, and re-establish your forces that way. But that is the recruit and regroup phase. Now, since the Korean Ming player passed the event line on the rondel, then an event has to take place before they do any actions on the board. So this action right here simply states windstorms. Until the card under the next event card is revealed, the cost for move and battle actions is doubled for all players. So this would actually stay in effect down here on the board until not this card, but the card under it is turned over. And that governs how much I have to pay to both move and battle on my turn and future turns, as long as this card is in effect. So normally, in order to move a troop from one place, or a legion rather, from one place to the next, you have to pay a 1 SP for each troop that's in that legion. But now I have to pay 2 per troop instead of just 1, because of the event card. So my first order of action will be to move Li Rusong and his legion to another province. So I spend 6 SP, because there are 3 times 2, and his special ability here says that whenever he moves, he can move 2 land areas and then declare a land battle. So he's going to move 2 land areas, so from here to here, and then from here to here. And then another movement is going to be to take the West Korea Legion here, West Korea Bay Legion, and move them in here to replace the Legion that left. And I think that's probably all the movement that I'm going to do here, keeping in mind that normally units that move cannot battle or support. So it's important that you plan out your turns accordingly that way. Now, after all movement has been done, then you declare battles, and then after you have declared all the battles that you're going to do, you can carry them out and resolve them in any order that you wish. So first of all, Li Rusong here, with his special ability, after moving 2 land areas, he is going to declare a battle there, and this legion here will support that endeavor. And I think that's the only battle that we're actually going to do here. We just want to see if we can get Gyeongsang-do down there under our favor. Now, in order to pay for that, because the attacker does have to pay for battles, you have to take the number of troops that are in the legion that is attacking and the number of troops that is in the supporting legion or legions, and that's how many SP points that you have to do. Now, because of windstorms, I have to pay double that. So right now it's 6 times 2, I'm going down to 4 SP. Now, the number of dice that Li Rusong's troop or legion is going to be able to roll is equal to the number of troops in his legion plus the one supporting legion. So that's going to be 3, 4, and then on top of that, Li Rusong down here does add 2 dice to his attacking legion, and he also takes 1 die away from the defending legion, and so that will give him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then this defending legion will usually get 2, but because Li Rusong takes away 1, they're only going to be rolling 1 die. So Li Rusong will take his dice and roll them, and he has a miss. Okay, we've got 2 hits, 3 misses because these are only hits in sea battles. That's always a miss. And then I'm going to be stealing 2 goods, 2 supply goods from the Japanese player. And then the Japanese player will roll his 1 die, and he will also be stealing 2, so these basically negate each other. I scored 2 hits on the Japanese player, and he doesn't score any on me. So, because that was the last legion in left Gyeongsang-do, he can move in and take ground, basically. If there was another legion in there, he would not have been able to do that, though. And now Gyeongsang-do, left Gyeongsang-do is underneath my control, which will raise my production level by 2 and lower the Japanese production level by 2 as well. So the players would continue taking turns using the action rondel back and forth until one of the aforementioned in-game triggers occurs. And then whoever has completed the prescribed winning condition, victory conditions, is the winner. So that is Far East War 1592. Now, I do want to mention that I just went over the basic ideas of the game. I didn't mention any of the 4-player stuff because, quite frankly, the way you play the game in a 4-player game doesn't really change much at all. The way you play the game is not different. It's just that you can use 4 people instead of just 2. But generally speaking, I think this is a 2-player game. I am glad that they said 2 or 4 on the box. Now, as far as gameplay is concerned, I'm afraid it suffers a little bit from analysis paralysis because you will have people that want to overthink their turns a little bit more and not really have a strategy prepared before their turn begins. And that's unfortunate. So the game can drag on if you're playing a person or team of people who have struggles with that. But generally speaking, I think you're probably looking at anywhere from 1.5 hours to 2 hours for this game. And that's not a horrible amount of time, especially for one that simulates a war that really, at least I think, has been vastly overlooked. The combat resolution is one that I was very pleasantly surprised with. I like how the dice have these different faces, and it feels a lot like Memoir 44 in that respect, where you're looking for certain faces instead of a numerical value. I like the fact that the board is laid out well. The track takes up the outsides of the board, both tracks, the supply track and the production track. I like how they include the different faces on the board and what each of them call for. It's a very clean board design, which I really enjoy a lot. The generals are where you have a lot of diversity in the game. It's not just an abstract strategy game on the board. The generals that you're going to be able to have at your disposal will give player powers, so to speak, and different abilities to each of the legions that they're attached to. And that's where a lot of the diversity, a lot of the differentiation between my forces and your opponents and my opponent's forces comes. is with the generals that you have in play. Being able to choose which 8 you start with and the first 2 that you start with, that's also a really cool thing. It just gives you the feel of having a lot of control over how you want the game to go, and even provides a little bit of strategic value before the game has even begun. The event cards are all pretty thematic as far as what was going on. There's even some ceasefire event cards that are in there because around 1596, I think it was, there was actually a ceasefire in this war. So things like that are very cool. They have hurricane cards where if you're in a sea battle or if you're in a sea zone, you can actually move or battle and that type of thing. So there's a lot of really neat event cards that provide just a little bit more immersion into the game. It's not just filled with things that are going to happen that are bad for each player. There's good and bad in the event deck, and I thought that was very cool as well. The core of choosing your actions, the rondel here, I thought while it was very simple and probably the most basic rondel I've ever seen, I like that this was as simplistic as it was because it took what probably could have been a very convoluted turn in phase 1 is production, phase 2 put out your generals, phase 3 recruit, phase 4, and a very convoluted phase turn order, and they put it into a rondel where you have to basically choose one combination of each of the 6 different things that you can do. So my final thought on Far East War 1592 is simply that I think this is probably one of the coolest games that I've played as far as a back and forth on a grand scale. I mean, Memoir 44 plays, back and forth very well, but it's squad combat, very small forces. This one is an epic, more grand scale of one person against another, your forces against mine, in a larger, peninsula-wide spectrum, and I think that's really cool. All in all, I'm going to give this 2 thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. This is one of the games from Essen that I was really looking forward to, and it delivered on everything that I was wanting it to deliver on. I like the differentiation with the generals and how your forces can feel different after you get a good number of those generals out on the board. And I just really enjoyed the flow of play. It can go a little bit longer than it probably should, but with strategic play and clever positioning of your generals and that type of thing, you're probably looking at about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes tops after both of you know what's going on. So with all that being said, 2 thumbs way up from me for Far East War 1592. We'll see you guys on the flip side.